65% of prospects lease with the first property to respond to them,
Wow.
which is wild,
You
right?
know I love data,
Yeah.
so we get more of that. 5%.
60%. So how are you the first one to respond to them, right? That to me, that is like the first thing we can do to
Because
improve your
they've shown
leasing.
interest, right? So the response is they've got, oh, that property is interesting.
Yeah.
It's like that emotional, hey, we respond quickly, and then that tracks.
Mhm.
I'm Matt Speer, founder and CEO of propertymanagement.com. We're here for a special episode. We're live in the podcast studio in the van in New Orleans at Broker Owner. We're here with Vanessa Anderson, CEO of ShowMojo and Tenant Turner, but we're going to talk about ShowMojo today. And then John Squires, your role is in, I just see you come up on all of our survey responses about how great your customer service is. What's your specific role?
I'm the VP of operations.
VP of operations.
He's like the master of all magician. He's like famous at these conferences. Customers come up. I actually had a customer come up and was like, "Do you know John Squires?"
Yeah, he's like the
I was like, "Yes, of course I do."
VP level, but he's like in the trenches. That's really respectable. You see that in the responses. So, well, yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about you, both of you, your backgrounds. Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, I think, my career in real estate and in property management really started with my dad's business. So my dad is a small business owner, entrepreneur, and he owned a family law firm. My sister is now a lawyer. And then he owned a real estate brokerage, which he used mostly for personal investment. And he had me run his QuickBooks and help him with his investment portfolio. So that's really like how I got started, my entrepreneurial roots, really like learning how to run a business end to end. And that led into a career in real estate. So I really kickstarted my official career in institutional ownership, working at 2 private equity funds. And I split my time between acquisitions and asset management. They're hiring and partnering with a lot of RPMs across all asset classes. And then really was introduced to some of the inefficiencies of the industry at the time and kind of there was a hesitancy to adopt technology. And that's really what drove me to pivot my career into tech. And so I've been at that intersection of real estate and technology for about 15 years now.
I have a daughter, Scotty. She's 3. Her birthday's, well, she's almost 3. Birthday coming up on the 30th. And I always joke like, I want to get her into real estate.
Put her to work.
It's like, so you got involved in that pretty early.
Yes.
What's too early? Is like, should I be talking to Scotty about cash flow yet,
I
or
don't
maybe
think
wait
it's
until
too early.
yeah?
No, honestly, I feel like that's why I studied business and got my MBA. Is the dinner table conversations were about running a business and profitability and really taking ownership. I think like there's no better way to set your kids up for a successful career than start having that conversation. Talk openly about your business with her.
Absolutely. John, yeah. When did you start at ShowMojo? Have you been around since the beginning? Kind of off script. We're talking about when was ShowMojo founded? It sounds like you've maybe been around a bit.
Yep, I've been around for a while. People sometimes ask, "Hey, are you the founder?" Because I care so much about it, But I was not here at the beginning. I started in 20.
Okay.
Thing, and I got started. It was kind of by chance. I got started with the ShowMojo. We moved from California out to the country in Missouri, out some acres. Kind of wanted to slow things down a little bit, so I hooked up with Pete, the founder, and yeah, I guess the rest is history. Now I work all the time instead of hanging out on the farm, but no, it's great. I also have a bit of a background in property management. My parents own a number of rentals in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, and a bit more of a challenging market, just from the, laws and regulations and things. So if you can kind of, cut your chops there and get involved earlier, that definitely translates. Very cool. Well, let's shift gears here a little bit. Let's dig into, I'd love to hear a bit about ShowMojo. I joke with Chuck. So Chuck, my co-founder, a lot of people know Chuck with One Rent became popular, was acquired by Evernest. We always talk about, ShowMojo, Tenant Turner, the OGs of leasing, right? And so you've been around a long time. A lot of people have that experience with your product and your products. Let's talk a little bit about kind of where things are today.
Yeah. The way we think of ShowMojo is really this precision engine for your leasing. So if you're, not using a modernized technology for your leasing, you're essentially doing some guesswork, right? And also consistency can be a problem. So leasing, we think of leasing as your first opportunity to impress your resident. It's the first interaction that a PM will have with their resident, and it is what sets the stage for that relationship. And so when you are doing things manually, you can be inconsistent. And so this is where you build trust, right? You say you're going to do something, you give clear expectations, and you follow through. And so when you're doing things manually and you're inconsistent, it essentially erodes trust from the very beginning. So we see ShowMojo as a platform to begin that relationship on the right foot, build that trust, as well as scale your leasing operation, get better results, right? So it's building that relationship and just really optimizing your ROI, getting your vacant spaces filled. We hope help you do that, and we are laser focused on that, solving that problem.
Yeah. And anything to add there? Just nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very good. Yeah. So in terms of, we've sort of been through 2011. That's like all of a sudden, I feel like you guys in a lot of ways created the category of like automated leasing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the buzzwords now, it's, Oscar, our head of engineering over here behind the camera, he's got really passionate takes just around like people using the words AI agents and workflows. Is an automation or a workflow an agent? Like, what's the difference between the two? So we're kind of moving through this era of software and automation into workflows and agents. And I think it's, a lot of property managers are just trying to understand what that means. They know it's
Mm-hmm.
important, but they don't really know how to apply it. And
Yeah.
obviously, maintenance, leasing, these are, leasing in particular in our conversation is very important for, that's very top of mind. So I'm curious how you guys are thinking about as a company, thinking about, kind of moving from automation into this like agentic sort of future that
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are talking about.
Definitely. I think of it as a modernization of the existing technology. Because right now, when we think automation, we think what ShowMojo does, which is a more linear path to get to the end result, which in our case is a scheduled showing. And so you're asking a series of kind of yes, no questions and saying, you hit this criteria, we'll pass you into a showing, confirm it. So switching from automation to an agentic model is the end result is the same, which is the scheduled showing, but it's how do you get there? It's more conversational in nature. It's replacing a human conversation. So you're still getting instantaneous responses, which is something we've always been laser focused on. But instead, if you ask questions that go off path,
Right.
right? You don't get stuck in this pause.
And you're the expert, so correct me. Like, here's how I think about it, and then
Mhm.
you be like, "Hey, Matt, you're wrong there. Here's how we think about
Yeah.
it." You guys are the pros. So I think about a tenant. Just at a fundamental level, you're a property manager. You have a vacancy, and they're not going to renew. Time to lease the property.
Mm.
You're going to post the property. So that's really the first. Yeah, let's start there. I wanted to go to like the inquiry, then the automatic reply, but
Yeah.
actually, it maybe even starts before that. It's how efficiently can you post that listing?
Yeah.
And what platforms? So maybe let's start there. I think you guys have some products coming out around that
Yeah,
as well.
just for background, for anyone who's not familiar with ShowMojo, we really fill that space from the time that you have an availability until the time a lease is signed. So that starts with syndication. So your listings are going to port in through your PMS, and we have a number of two-way sync, strong PMS integration partners that we've worked for years to continue to perfect. And that's where it starts. Your source of truth is your PMS. It flows to us. We syndicate out. We have the largest network of syndication partners of any leasing platform in this space. So we syndicate and essentially automate the marketing on your behalf. And then where the agent steps in is really upon that initial inquiry. So when a prospect has a question, wants to book a showing.
Hey, I love 1234 Main Street.
Yeah.
How do I set up a tour? And it's like enter.
Yes.
And then
It's Zillow's job, realtor apartments job to get those eyeballs and to get your listing in front of them. It is our job once they're interested to push them through a path and nurture that lead and move them into a lease.
Yep.
And so that's where our historic automation would ask questions, would prompt them with what's coming next. With the agent, it can be more free flowing. Before, if you had a specific question on a pet policy, you might need to wait until the next day when the office can answer that. Now the agent can answer that.
they're already, and then they're probably already at that point. If that question's unanswered right away, they're probably already checking out a place that in evening.
Yeah.
Right. So that's so critical
Mhm.
to be able to be responsive.
65% of prospects lease with the first property to respond to them,
Wow.
which is wild.
I love data. So
Yeah.
we get more of that. 5%.
60%. So how are you the first one to respond to them? Right. That to me, that is like the first thing we can do to
Because they've
improve your
shown
listing.
interest, right? So the response is they've said, "Ooh, that property is interesting."
Yeah.
It's like that emotional, hey, we respond quickly, and then That
Mhm.
tracks.
Mhm.
And so digging in a little bit, I don't want to get too caught up on this, but the difference between automation and an agentic process, an automation would be like if applicant or if potential prospect shows interest, reply with the message, "Hi, how are you? Would you like to schedule a tour? Here's a link." And like an automation or agentic process is going to be more specific to that property and the variables there. And do they accept pets? Do they not accept pets? And so then
Yeah.
that's going to push them towards a showing, which I've seen a lot of cool stuff on LinkedIn. Like, first of all, whoever's doing your visuals, good for
Oh,
them.
good. Our
Yes.
marketing team will
All
love
right.
that.
So shout out to the marketing. I think people are
They're
noticing
actually
it.
outside of this van
All
here.
right.
Right.
So I say it really loud then? No. So, and I think it was you guys are sort of touting the converting prospects to showing at a 54% rate. Can you
Mhm.
talk a bit about why that's important? And then also, I think just help
Yeah.
people understand kind of what drove that research. Was that an internal kind of look in? I'd love to hear a little bit more
Yeah.
about that.
So actually, do you want to give a history of the data talks a little bit?
Yeah, sure. A number of years ago, Pete, our founder, started doing the data talks, and we have years of data. I think we go back to 2018. That's something that our competitors don't have, and it shows exactly how we convert, how we handle the leads. I think it's something like we've handled 73 million leads,
Wow.
Mhm.
23 million showings, and so we have that history and the data that backs it up. So we're tracking everything pretty much.
Mhm.
And so what the team does is they dig in and go through the data and see if they see patterns and trends. And so, we definitely keyed in on that one, and that one is incredible. And I think, the key is end of 2025, I think we kind of bottomed out.
Yeah.
And because of that, that conversion rate just gets so much more important. So
Mhm.
that's why we've been focused on that because that's what ShowMojo does, right? We take
Right.
top of the funnel and we move them through the process as Vanessa said.
Yeah. So if there's less volume of lead at the top of funnel, the really only way to optimize is it's in a lot of ways that's out of your control for a lot of property managers. There's some
Mhm.
levers, right? But in a macro level, it's out of your control. So then it's okay. We got to optimize for our tech stack so that we're really really good at the people who are inquiring and getting them into the property and making sure that experience goes well.
Yeah.
So
Well, people refer to a lot of different KPIs, right? People are like, oh, well, days on market, you're reporting a higher days on market than others.
Mm,
But I think, in terms of how do you tell if our software is being effective for the purpose that it is set out for, is conversion rate. Because days on market is going to be dependent on where your customers are located, what markets they're in, what product they have. Right. If you're in Phoenix right now, they have an influx of supply. You're going to
right.
have higher days on market than if you're in San Francisco, or the Midwest has stayed really tight. So, depending on your dispersion of customers, the days on market can fluctuate. And that is just, you know, real estate market dynamics, supply and
Yeah,
demand.
it's like what is it, the leading and lagging. It's like if
Hmm.
you're just looking at days on market, it's like, all right, how do you optimize for that? Well, you
Yeah.
probably go, earlier in the process and it's creating efficiencies leading up to that number,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, we can't control if there's too much supply in a market, right? There's going
Right.
to be high days on market. You're going to see that go up as a market gets more and more supply. What we control and what we focus on is the leads that you do have. How do we convert the highest percentage of those into a showing on your behalf and nurture those as much as possible into a lease? So that's how we measure our success. And that's why we view ourselves as a leader in this space, because of that efficiency we have from a lead to a showing.
That's awesome. What are some of the things I think? So we've talked a little bit about the background, the history of the company, the OGs of leasing. We're kind of moving in this agentic future. What we've got kind of the here. Where are you guys going? What are some of the things that your team's working on right now, releasing that you guys are really excited about?
In terms of vision, the marketing team will probably rebrand this, but I'm thinking of it as the vacancy killer. Like,
Okay,
that
okay,
is
that's
like
very that's very headliney.
like 100% what we are focused on is reducing your vacancies, which right now is really important because the market is so soft. In addition to the workflow, how can we utilize our enormous data set to help you make better decisions? How do we recommend things that you can change in your listings in order to optimize the performance, optimize your eyeballs, optimize that conversion rate? And so that's really, for the next 12 to 24 months, what we're focused on is leveraging that huge data set to our customers' advantage and giving them very tailored, very actionable recommendations on what they can do and how they can manage their listings and workflow most effectively.
Yeah, that's very good. The vacancy killer. I'm like caught up on that. That's very good.
Maybe they won't rebrand it.
Maybe they won't.
Maybe I'm a marketer
Yeah,
now.
I mean, it's like, the marketers are going to say, don't throw the word killer into a headline on LinkedIn, but maybe that's what the people want. I don't know.
No,
But
they
no.
don't do my LinkedIn.
Well, let's maybe dig into a little bit of our data on the propertymanagement.com side. So
Yeah.
I think the feedbacks and a little bit of backstory on our vendor performance index and really how that came about. What we looked at was our goal is to be the Carfax of property management, surface the best property managers, a lot of those property managers on your platforms. And really the way that they're seeing how they want to stand out is, they want to be able to prove that they're better at leasing or talk to a prospective client, similar to like the metrics we're talking about, right? They want to be able to put those in front of prospective clients and use it as a marketing and sales tool. What we realized in that process was the best way to determine if a property manager is going to be a good property manager is, well, let's ask their clients what their experience is. And so we have this NPS style survey that really kicked this off. Are you would you recommend our overall satisfaction? How do you feel about leasing performance? What's the average days on market? And the aha moment we had was that we really saw that, well, wait a second. We have the third kind of lens, which is it's not just about what the property manager feels about their software, but what are the outcomes companies are having? They're like using a ShowMojo, in terms of being able to have happier clients, stronger retention, kind of that outcome based model. So I'm curious your team's thoughts on that approach, like adding that extra layer in terms of like your product driving outcomes for the client. Do you feel like that comes up just in your guys' day to day and on how you think about your products?
Absolutely.
Definitely. Anecdotally, property managers, like Vanessa said, just get their units leased out quicker. And dealing with customers on a day-to-day basis, we definitely see that. So it's nice to have a measure that we can go to that shows that. And we hear from customers all the time how we've helped them. And if they have a place to go and measure ShowMojo based on that, I mean, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think well, I'll share some data points. So overall NPS that we over 54 verified responses, an NPS of 54.5, extremely strong. Then looking at some of the other metrics, so looking at pricing specifically, I mean anything with a 9 in the front, and 90.5 was the metric that we closed with this year's VPI. Two things stood out. One, 15% better support quality than industry average. Your
That's
name
this guy.
specifically was
I was
referenced.
going to ask
It was
if
like
searched
you,
his name.
you and Allison from Enterprise. It was like, whoa, like this. I was like, is this guy like a entry level customer support guy cranking? No, he's like the VP.
Yeah, no, he handles it. So his name comes up all the time. Customers come to our booths and they're like, John Squires, John Squires, John Squires. Like, if you want a problem solved, this is
I
your
think
guy.
you need a raise. You guys should raise your price because everyone's so happy. And then,
I wonder who would be in charge of the raise. We got her here. No, but the team's incredible. I can't take credit for it.
Yeah.
I get a ton of help from the team. We have a bunch of great tenured employees on the team. I think that's really helped customers.
Very
top
low
to bottom.
attrition. The team
Yeah.
enjoys working for ShowMojo. They're passionate about the brand.
Yep.
I mean, I think when with customer service, they love what they do.
Yeah.
They love working with our customers,
Right.
and so they'll do whatever they need to do to ensure and partner. I think to your point, if our customers are not getting the outcomes in their business, they're not able to grow their portfolio, if they're not able to retain their owners, then we're not doing our job as partners. Because leasing is one of the main drivers of owner retention and owner satisfaction. So that's something we've always partnered with them on in terms of making sure that they're able to do that and providing them with the resources like our data talk to have tough conversations with their owners. In the second half of this year, we're really focused on our analytics and owner reporting. We have rich owner reporting, but really enhancing that and modernizing it to serve it up and make it more easy or easier, more easier to have those conversations. And I think that's what will tie to those positive outcomes for the PMs.
I think one thing we're noticing just within our team, some of our conversations is like how dynamic we can be with a client's experience because, we have all these AI tools that allow us to not just run this rigid process or, if then that, if this, then that. We're able to provide more of a kind of cultivated experience. And companies and I'm curious your thoughts on this, but this is sort of how I think about it. You've got on one side AI and automation and kind of the easy button, run that system, let it work for you. But there's also going to be that human piece where when it doesn't go smoothly or there's an edge case, it can't just be mail it in, we're not here,
Yeah.
right? It's got to be, no, on those edge cases, we're available. And, a lot of people call it like the human in the
Yeah.
loop, right? But is that
Mhm.
something that your team's sort of adapting to? Because, I think that one hard question that I have is looking at an area you didn't score as well, which was credibility, which I think is interesting because you guys are like the OGs. You've been around for a while. And I think it's the sexy, cool products that are released and agent this, agent that. It's like somehow that almost diminishes the credibility of the companies that have been around a while because they're maybe perceived as like less exciting.
Mhm.
But I think, if you're focused on customer support, I
Yeah.
think that's probably like, it doesn't have to be exciting. It's sort of kind of the angle that I take. Is that sort of, how do you sort of, balance that perception?
Yeah, I think there's a few things to unpack there. I do think when you compare ShowMojo to the market, we have an incredibly feature rich product. So the price per feature value is there. We have very complex calendaring. We have I think world class scheduling, ability to handle a lot of different
Yes,
customizations,
yes.
more so than other platforms out there. So I think, you mentioned pricing as part of the metric.
Right.
That like that price per feature is we're very well priced. In terms of
The data agrees for the record.
Yep. So I think in terms of support, we already talked about our team and John and how much they care about the success of the PMs. So that is going to be a continued focus. And as things evolve in I think we can make that even better. And in fact, like, we're a tech company, we're putting AI into our products, but internally, just like everyone, our business is changing.
Right.
And so we're doing a monthly AI hackathon. And
Yeah.
John did a tool where he's in customer meetings all day, right? So he has a tool that preps him every day and is like, here's everything about the account. Here's all the tickets that they had. This is what the conversation's about so that he can provide exemplary service.
Right.
And so I think,
I'm,
those are
I'm pulling
the
my phone out to see if you guys have these AI hackathons. Is this just internal or?
internal. It's
Yeah.
like, as essentially, I want the team utilizing AI from an ops perspective too, not just putting in our product for our PMs, but we have to drink our own Kool-Aid, right?
Right.
So how are we using AI
Yeah.
to be better at our processes? And I think for small businesses, which we fall into and our customers fall into, what I love about AI is not like AI is taking your job and all this
Right.
like fear. We, like all small businesses, have endless things that we would love to do that we can't get to, right? Because we have limited headcount. Now
Yep.
we can do that and we can do a better job. So how do we leverage that? How does John, who is the famous customer support person, like how does he do that even better?
Well,
How
yeah.
does he serve that up?
For you, Vanessa, that it's got to be difficult. And, the decision maker role, you're the leader, visionary. You're making the decisions on what's worked on. And we're in this era where everybody's vibe coding can,
Right.
they can put together a cool, hey, what if we launch this? What if we launch this? And it's
Yeah.
like, how do you make those choices? And I would imagine, if you're a startup company that just launched a single AI agent product in the leasing space, it's probably a lot easier to make those decisions because you don't have all that other robustness, right?
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
it sounds like you think, at ShowMojo, you think about your product as, hey, we've got a lot of things figured out. We do a lot of things well. We're going to innovate, but we're not just going to, innovate for innovation's sake.
Right.
It's got to be something that fits into your clients' outcomes, what they're thinking about, where there's value, not just like the cool thing to talk about.
It has to enhance the major KPIs,
Right.
right? The first and foremost being that conversion rate. So if we implement our AI agent and it erodes conversion from an inquiry to a showing, that's counterproductive, right? Do you want to have a conversational AI agent but fewer showings? I don't think a single PM would raise their hand to that. So it has to make it better. Also, when you are an established customer, across our two platforms, we have 4,500 PMs, we have 1 million doors. You can't disrupt their
Right.
existing business, right? For the
Right.
sake of innovation. So we have to be really thoughtful and methodical about that
Well,
innovation.
and they're also used to your platform, right? For the last, many of them for the last decade.
Yeah.
And so if you just jump in there and just start like new feature, like they
Yeah.
log in and be like, what is this new stuff here? Like, how do I use it?
Mhm.
Right. That also takes training, implementation, right? So yeah, I think that's the right mindset to have. And yeah, a million, two commas in there. That's impressive. The
Yeah, and
the data, kind of speaks for itself there.
in talking to customers, everybody thinks they need AI. They know they need AI, but they don't know how to implement it. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to break it. And so a lot of them were kind of just waiting for something that just bolts right on top of ShowMojo.
Yeah,
And they come to us and they're like, "What is coming on your roadmap? Because I know I need AI. Is
Yeah,
it coming?" Right. And so
right.
we were able to have that conversation. And that's why earlier this year we did something which we had never done before, which was share our roadmap publicly and do webinars with our roadmap because we're like, we want them to know it is coming. We are focused on their
Mm,
KPIs and their outcomes, and that we are innovating as quickly as possible in a way that will not sink the ship, right?
yeah.
We don't want to so and really bring that to them. Like we're doing everything in our power to be that vacancy killer, to be that one-stop
Yep.
shop leasing software for them. And we have a lot more exciting things coming this year.
I'm excited to hear more about that. I think, yeah, I mean, the transparency, I'm a sucker for transparency. So I love releasing the roadmap publicly. That's very cool. One question I have that's maybe a little off topic, but obviously on topic with leasing is when I was running my property management business, we sort of went through this like kind of this weird wave of, all right, we need to do self showings. At first our company was like very investor focused boutique. We worked with a lot of like we were very investor focused, very investor friendly. And so then all of a sudden we said, hey, let's scale this up. We want to go from 300 doors to 600 doors. And so then it's like we have to think about efficiency. And I almost felt like we over indexed into self showing. And then I feel like we kind of dipped back and said, hey, what if on our best rentals we have a person there? And then we kind of dipped down, and now I feel like the technology is catching up to where it's maybe self showings full on is just the solution. Because I think do you feel like that's kind of how AI sort of pushed some of that forward? Is that I think I've heard the number like 75% of showings are self showings now in like the NARPM community. Is that number crazy?
I think it depends where you're
right.
located. And our system works whether you're doing self showings or accompanied showings. I
Yep.
think sometimes that's a common misconception. I was out at Cal NARPM and somebody's like, "But I won't ever self show," and I was like, "Don't worry, like you don't have to
Yeah,
self show."
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
"We're still going to reduce your call and email volume by 80%,
Oh wow.
right?" And how many emails do you answer that say, "Are you free?" Say at 2 o'clock,
Right.
right? Your calendars are digital. That should be
That's so true.
automatic.
Right.
So there's still an enormous lift if you're doing accompanied showing. And we can cluster those showings, optimize drive times, do so many things that if you are doing in-person showings for a variety
Mm,
of reasons, you
Yeah.
still get
Yeah, you almost
incredible
have a
efficiency.
supercharged leasing assistant helping
Yes.
you do your like,
Yeah.
in-person job. Yeah.
But, obviously in many parts of the country, self-showing has become the dominant
mm,
way to show. And in other places, there's squatter rights, and you would never do a self showing because the risk is
right.
too high. So I think it's balancing your efficiencies as a company, the legal and regulatory environment in your local community, and figuring out what your special sauce is too. And we allow you to do that the way that you choose. I think that's what's actually so special about ShowMojo is it is so customizable.
Yeah.
It really can fit any company makeup, any staffing, any requirements that you choose.
Yep.
Um, and so we really kind of help you guide you to find the showing style that works best for you.
Yeah, and another rapid fire question. So earlier you'd mentioned, and we went out to dinner. I was with the profit coach guys, a few others. I don't know, it was like 12, 15 people or so. And the amount of times that like data accessibility came up ended up being kind of a takeover of the conversation for,
Yeah.
I mean, Oscar again behind the camera. And he's like, they're just grilling Oscar with questions, our head of engineering obsessed with the data, right? You mentioned the word, two-way sync earlier. So a lot of, I think what's top of mind probably will be talked about too much almost at the Broke Runner conference that's happened here in New Orleans. Like, how do you think about your leasing data? That's obvious, millions of, 70 million properties that you've leased, whatever that number is. The property manager, it feels like they really want access to that data, not to go out and vibe code a leasing replacement.
Yep.
It's more so like, okay, how is my churn being like, what's driving my churn? Isolate it to maintenance issues, leasing issues, communication gaps. So how do you think about like, you have a product, you want to, dominate that leasing category, but how do you balance like the customer also wanting access to a lot of that data themselves
Yeah.
and thinking of that data as their data,
So
right?
for all of our customers, so they have access to all of their data, either through our reports or through the API. Always. They own their data. And I think in really in every area I've worked in tech, I think data ubiquity is incredibly important. So you want to, and I think having an open environment where you allow your customers to choose their own tech stack is fundamentally important. Because they can use us for leasing, they could use property meld, they could use a variety of PMSs. They could build their own. Whatever that is, like we want them to be able to build their business the way they want to build it. And so I think having access to that data is really important. The challenge that we've set out for 2026 to solve is how do we use that aggregated, anonymized, enormous national data set to their advantage?
Yeah. So the security
Right?
piece, privacy,
Yeah.
that's very important too,
So,
right?
yeah.
Especially at your
Yeah.
scale. And that's also another reason why you can't just roll out some vibe coded
Mhm.
solution for,
Yeah. So that's where like we have enough data that we can benchmark, that we can provide recommendations based on historicals. And so I think that's really where the focus is when we think about revamping our analytics and our reporting is how do we not just in a data talk, but how do we give that to them in mass so that they can make better decisions?
And so it sounds like from your vantage point at ShowMojo, whether you're using Appfolio, Buildium, Rent Manager, Rentvine, they have access to their data on the leasing side. They have the ability to connect with that data, use that data elsewhere, and that's super important.
I think that's incredibly important. Yeah. I think anytime you try to hold a customer's data hostage, right, you limit them, you limit their ability to choose tools, you limit their ability to run their business the way they want, and it will have the opposite effect than what you want, right? Which is it turns off the customer,
Yep.
it frustrates them. So, yeah, letting
It
them
just makes their vibe coding not as fun, like let the people vibe code if they want a little bit, even if it's just hobby related.
Exactly. And I mean, our two-way syncs with our PMS partners and our integrations with our ILS partners, those are built over time and quite frankly can't be vibe coded because we have access to fields that are not in the public API and that take a lot of maintenance. So utilizing those to remove duplicative data entry is a big efficiency and something that I mean, who wants to manage your listing in 20 different places, right? No, nobody.
No one,
It's not effective.
no one wants to do that.
So that's a huge benefit of our systems and of those longstanding relationships with those integration partners. And we love working with all the companies you mentioned.
All the companies. We love all the companies. That's good. I love to hear that. Yeah, I feel like a part of our positioning at propertymanagement.com is, we talk about two things really. And we drink our own Kool-Aid. We try to have a good time with it. It's, elevate the industry and we want to be the front door to the industry. So, right. Oddly, our front door right now is this weird garage and then this, van. But the idea I think
You
is
got to take some pictures and publish them with the podcast
Yes.
of the half open garage door
hey, do you want to
in
come
New
inside? You
Orleans.
wanna,
Yes. Like giving out free candy and luring people into this garage.
and then talking about data and property management and all these weird
Yeah.
topics. But yeah, I mean, I think we're really just trying to have, like provide more of a voice to the property manager. And I think it's really refreshing to hear, you guys are listening. That's the main thing I'm taking away from this is that you've been around a long time. You've done some really cool things. You've got a lot of customers. You've leased a lot of property and you're listening. And I think that's really cool.
I think like something that's really interesting right now with the advent of AI is that technology is systemically changing. So what I think a lot about for ShowMojo is we've been around for 10 plus years. What do we need to provide our customers to be here for another 10, another 20? And that is something we're dedicated to. We are not going anywhere and we want to be the leasing partner for PMs for the next decade.
I love that. Well, I think unless you guys have anything to add, I have to do our lightning round
Oh no.
because Dylan Scroggins, who is a way better host than me, I'm normally co-host and I get to kind of sit back and he kind of guides things and I just have all my hot takes. But we love to do the lightning rounds. Let's do it. We got two of you here this time, so we'll just kind of go back and forth here.
All
So
right.
let's start it out with your favorite tool or app for work. Doesn't have to be a property management related tool. Could be anything. What do you think?
I'm gonna go with Claude for now. Also plug Trello. I'm kind of old school. I love Trello for
Yeah.
keeping organized. So I'll go with Claude.
Oscar loves Trello too.
Yeah.
Love it.
I've been using Fixer. It's it auto categorizes my emails, and I have a
Chuck's
hard
been
time getting through my emails. So it
Chuck's
tells
been
me.
doing Fixer, so tell
Yeah.
me about that one a little bit. We're supposed
It's
to go lightning round. Dylan
it
gets
like
mad when I do this.
prioritizes your email. So I get like the needs a response, and it usually has like less than 10 versus my actual inbox might have, 200 or 300
Yeah.
a day.
I'm gonna try to game it. I'm gonna send you an email that just says like something silly, but headline's gonna say needs a
Yeah,
response, and see if I can get
sometimes it
Fixer
gets
to
it
jump in.
wrong, and then someone's like, "What happened to this?" And it's like in the marketing emails. I'm like, "Sorry,"
Yeah, that's
but for the
cool.
most part, it's pretty good.
So
I'm a big fan.
Fixer, Trello, Claude. Yeah, that's great. All right, next question. Book or podcast every operator should read or listen to?
So I like a book called Winning Moves. It's specifically about private equity SaaS businesses, but honestly, I think it's like a good playbook for the growth of any business. Like it just systematically breaks down your go to market and where you could be growing and not, or how you identify areas for growth. So I think that's a great one. And podcast, this isn't very original. I like to listen to How I Built This.
Oh my gosh. I want to be Guy Raz, and
Yeah.
I can't be him. I won't be him, but
Yeah.
that's
Well,
great.
much from other industries,
Oh
where you
yeah.
draw parallels.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting.
Again, Dylan gets mad at me when I do this. What's your favorite How I Built This episode?
Oh, God.
There's so many good. I would say
Ah.
mine would be like the Spanx episode if you
Oh,
listen to that
I
one.
love Spank. I
Yeah,
love the
because
Spank
she like
episode.
goes into it had like no traction at
Yeah.
all. She's like, I think at one point she was it was the fast or something about female billionaire. I think it was
Yeah.
Speed or something.
Fastest to a billion.
Yeah, something like that.
Blakely.
Blakely,
She's
yeah.
awesome.
She like
I
went
like
into
the
the
Dry Bar
stores. Yeah.
story too.
Oh yeah.
Or the WeWork founders were really interesting. What was wild there is like grew up on a commune, and then there were 2 other episodes for other kids who grew up on that same commune. So they all became like
Wow.
multimillionaires
We
growing up like in
there needs to be like a
poverty.
study there. Crazy.
Also, they're raised by all women. Just saying.
Very cool. Very cool. Maybe, yeah, there's
Plug
got to be
the
something there.
gender there.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, for me, it's a book called Getting Things Done by David Allen. And you can ask Pete about it. He recommended it to me, our founder,
Yeah.
probably 5 or 6 years ago. Really a game changer. I think
You do get a lot done.
I was gonna be
Yeah.
quippy and say what's it about, but it sounds like it's about getting things done.
yeah, I think it's called the art of productivity. It
Mhm.
talks about our brains have limited capacity to hold things, and it's moving things into the right category and kind of clearing things up. So inbox zero is part of that, and all that.
I'm learning a lot about you. I'm connecting that mindset, that psychology, your like human brain mindset with Trello and task management into Claude. It's
That's
like
it.
No,
my
it is-
AI
it is
brain,
wild,
yeah.
like the amount of tasks that John gets through, I have to say. So I've had that on my Kindle for probably 3 years. I haven't read it, so maybe I'll read it on the way home.
Right, we'll have to go offline. I got to learn some of these productivity hacks. Yeah, we'll talk more about that. Very cool. All right, I think I've got a couple more of these. I'm terrible at lightning rounds. I got to improve. Let's see. Next question is this is a good question. All right, so what is one word? Actually, one word. I'll hold you to this one. One word to describe the future of leasing.
Efficiency.
That's good.
I'll go with automation.
Automation. All right. And I'll let you elaborate a little bit on it if you want. That's good.
One
One
word.
word. Thank you. See, you're holding me accountable. This is good. This is good. Well, this has been great. Really excited about what your team's doing. I think my biggest takeaway from this is just how much you guys are focused on, your data and the history you have, and then listening and really advocating for the industry and helping to drive these outcomes forward. So thank you for joining. It's just been fun.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time, guys.
Thank you for having us. This was fun.